Welcome back to the West Ham Voice. Thank you for joining me on this Friday bank holiday. I hope you're having a good Easter break or the beginning of the good Easter break. I hope you're all doing well. Look, if you're new to this channel, first time you're watching the show, or if you've watched the channel before but yet to become a subscriber, there's a QR code that's going to appear in the corner there. If you click on that after the show, it'll take you straight to the subscription page. You can become a subscriber of the channel free of charge. That's, of course, if you enjoy the content. And if you do enjoy the content, there's a like button below the video that you can click on. There's also a hype button that you can click on, which allows you to promote, just by clicking on that hype button, to promote the video on my behalf. So I hope you become a member of the channel, a subscriber of the channel. I'm trying to get to the 10,000 mark, and I'm not that far away, so you would help. So what have we got on today? Well, we've got an FA Cup game coming up, haven't we? Well, first of all, let's talk a little bit about the international break that happened. It was the first international break of the calendar year, but the last international break of this season. It's over now. We've only got we've only got the league to focus on. Well, I kind of say the league to focus on because there's an FA Cup game coming up as well. But throughout the international break, there were some winners and some losers for competing for the final places in this summer's World Cup. For example, Mads Hermansen and his Denmark team failed to qualify, and they lost to Thomas Soucek and his Czechia team, who beat them on penalties. Aaron Wan-Bissaka and his Democratic Republic of Congo team also made it to the finals of this summer's World Cup by beating Jamaica 1-0. In friendlies, Matheus Fernandes got his long-awaited senior debut for Portugal when he replaced Bruno Fernandes in the 85th minute of their game away to the US, who they beat 2-0. But as for Jarrod Bowen, well, mixed feelings really. Despite the fact that the England squad were missing quite a large number of players as they returned early to their domestic teams because of supposed injuries and niggles, Bowen was surprisingly not even in the starting lineup when England hosted Japan. So unfortunately, at this stage, we're still none the wiser whether Thomas Tuchel is going to include Bowen in his squad for this summer's tournament. But the internationals are out of the way, as I said, and now we can fully focus on the final 7 Premier League games of the season. Well, until we actually get the FA Cup game out of the way. On Sunday, we host Leeds United in the quarter-final of this FA Cup. This is going to be the 4th time that we play Leeds in this particular cup competition. The first was way back in 1924 when we drew at home, but we lost to Leeds in the replay by a 0-0. The last time we played them in this competition was 2022, where Manuel Lanzini and Jarrod Bowen gave us a 2-0 win to progress to the next round. In our last 7 league games against Leeds, spanning the last 5 years, we've kind of got the psychological advantage over them. We've beaten them 4 times, we've lost twice, and we've had 1 draw. But the last time we played them in any competition was the 2-1 defeat away to Leeds back in October under Graham Potter. But clearly, a lot's happened since then, with Nuno stepping in, breathing a new lease of life into this West Ham squad, making substantial changes during the January window, and we look far better a team now than we did against Leeds back in October. But this cup game is going to be significant for a number of obvious reasons. The first one, of course, is that the winners will book their place in the semi-final at Wembley in April. Now, that's something that would be worth looking forward to. The other reason, of course, is that the winners of this game could be laying down a marker for how the final game of the season between these 2 clubs might pan out. It's a game which may well determine the future Premier League status of either West Ham United or Leeds United. Both teams fighting to stay in the Premier League, with Leeds having the better of it at the moment, being 4 points clearer and a better goal difference. But both teams have won the same number of games, with Leeds only doing better with 4 more draws. So in essence, it's kind of not a lot to choose between the 2 teams. But with a relegation battle deep in the minds of both Nuno and Daniel Farke, how are they going to approach this game? Well, both clubs are in a survival mode at the moment. The FA Cup offers a bit of a respite, bit of a lifeline to progress, to have some success in a different way. And a win will actually give momentum, give a bit of belief. And as I said, it will give us a day out at Wembley. And that might change just how both managers will approach this game. Do you use your best players, get to Wembley and the psychological boost that comes with it? Or in contrast, do you use your best players and a loss could be a psychological blow? But is the halfway house to use some of our best players? Sorry, I got my phone ringing. Is the halfway house to use some of our best players and some of our fringe players to, is that the way these managers will go? Will that be enough to get us through? We look at, I'm really being distracted, sorry. We look at how Nuno has approached the last few FA Cup games, and I think this might be the gamble he will go for. He'll put out a team that will hopefully be adequate enough to try and get a positive result, but at the same time, keep some of his key players behind for the upcoming game next Friday night against Wolves in the league. Look, from my understanding, Nuno now has an almost full roster of players he can select from. Of course, there are still doubts over Dinos Mavropanos, who sustained a head injury in the last international game for Greece. So he is unlikely to be risked for this particular game. But there are conflicting stories about Crescencio Somerville and Jean-Claire Todibo. Will they be available for this cup game? Look, even if they are, I'm uncertain whether Nuno will actually go for both in the starting lineup. Jared Bowen, of course, is the ever constant in this lineup, and I doubt that Nuno will want to risk not starting him. Leeds, of course, will double up on him and try and close his space so he can't cut in on his left foot or provide a pass for another player to create chances for. But it's Crescencio Somerville that is the big question mark. If he's fit, and I believe he is, he's undoubtedly the X factor for West Ham. We know what he's like, quick, direct, loves to run in behind the defenders, and his return changes West Ham's balance with a more direct pace. But is Nuno going to risk him knowing what's around the corner in terms of Premier League survival? I'm not sure that he will risk him, to be honest. But this game could be the perfect game for veteran striker Callum Wilson, who might well partner Valentin Castellanos up front. Again, you don't need me to tell you the qualities. Hello, Sushi. You don't need me to tell you the qualities of Callum Wilson, a classic penalty box predator. He does have a bit of pace, not abundant pace, but he's got that strength up front that sometimes we need. Nuno can choose a target man to occupy defenders or a mobile forward to press and create chaos. The combination of both Wilson's finishing and Castellanos' movement gives West Ham two distinct ways to break Leeds down up front. Matías Fernandes, he's grown to be one of our most important players this season, and he can control midfield tempo and has proved to be a key signing. Again, though, will he risk playing him? That risk, if someone like Matías Fernandes gets injured, it hampers us immensely for the running in the Premier League. But the midfield energy he brings against this Leeds United side, as well as his composure and excellent passing range, could prove to be vital. As for Leeds, Dominic Calvert-Lewin is one of their main players, of course, but he's a risk. Apparently, we're not sure whether he'll actually be fit for this game or not. But again, you don't need me to tell you his qualities. Strong in the air, good at holding up play, a real threat from crosses and set pieces. If he's unavailable, Leeds are going to have to adapt their approach and rely on more movement and interchanging forwards. So it's going to be interesting to see how these both managers approach this game. Farke has got Lucas and Mencha. He can be an intelligent runner if he as an alternative to Calvert-Lewin. He's the player that's going to punish any team if we lapse in concentration in defence. So West Ham's going to have to be disciplined in the channels and avoid being pulled out of shape to allow Mensah space. Other players, Noah Okafor's pace and directness on the left is going to test our fullbacks. I think Kyle Walker-Peters will play in this game because I think he'll be a better foil for the challenge that Okafor brings. But Leeds have got other options as well. Anton Stach, Brendan Aronson in midfield who can both score and press. Stach gives Leeds a bit of structure. Aronson gives them energy. If West Ham allowed them enough time, Leeds will control the middle of the park. So then you start thinking about that's why the likes of Matthias Fernandes could be crucial. So both managers have got dilemmas. Now, in terms of who I think will definitely start, Alphonse Areola, it's a bit of an audition for him yet again. He's been training at West Ham during the international break, whilst Mads Hermansen has been away with Denmark. So he's hopefully been able to show Nuno during training that he's more than just a cup keeper. Defensive cover with Mavropanos likely to be missing. Nuno could go for Max Kilman. He could step into the fray in order not to risk Jean-Claire Todibo, who's only returning back from injury. But Nuno seems to have kind of demonstrated that despite Kilman being on the bench for many games, it's kind of reluctant to seem to use him at all. I've got a feeling that I've said Kyle Walker-Peters will play to help Bowen push further up front, because Walker-Peters offers a bit more defensively than Aaron Wan-Bissaka. As for midfield, if Nuno fears Leeds' press game, he might start with a double pivot, with the likes of maybe Souček and Fernandes being those options. But he could easily use either Freddie Potts or Sungutu Magassa instead. Now, of the two managers, Nuno's mindset is a little bit more conservative than Daniel Farke's. Farke has demonstrated in the past that he's happy to be a little bit more cavalier with his team and his selections. And this, I think, is what's going to happen in this particular game. Nuno's going to tinker because West Ham are in a more precarious situation in the league. And Farke is likely to go for the best team he can put out because he'll probably think that the 4-point cushion Leeds have over West Ham is likely to be enough so he can put out a stronger starting 11. But this is where West Ham's squad really come into their own and demonstrate that they're as good as, or can be as good as, the starting 11. And this is the team that I think he's going to put out on Sunday. Areola in goal. I think Walker-Peters will start. And I think Ezra Myers is going to get the nod as left back. Jean-Claire Todibo, I think, will be risked, knowing that Dinos will be back for the next game. Should Todibo suffer an injury, he's got Mavropanos in reserve to play against Wolves next Friday. He'll line up. Todibo will line up alongside Disasi, of course, and I think Magassa will. I think Fernandes will play, and I think Magassa will get yet another chance to demonstrate that he's actually quite a decent player. I don't think Somerville will start, as I said. So Traore will go on the left, Bowen on the right, and as I've mentioned, I think Callum Wilson will partner Castellanos up front. Now, putting this sort of team out means that Nuno, for the next game against Wolves, has got the likes of Hermansen, Malik Diouf, Aaron Wan-Bissaka, Dinos Mavropanos, Crescencio Somerville, Thomas Souček, Pablo, all in reserve. You know, some of these players may well come on and play a part in this FA Cup game, but they'll be fresher. And then, of course, you've got other players like Potts, Kante, and so on to complement. So this is, I think, the balance that Nuno's going to go with. A couple of fringe players, Kyle Walker-Peters, Magassa, Traore, Myers, but they're decent players. They're decent enough. Well, Traore, they're decent enough to help to try and get a result. So that's the lineup. And when it comes to predictions, well, you know me. I'm always the one that's the half glass full. And I think West Ham United are not going to require extra time or penalties in this case. And I think we're going to go through in normal time and be 2-1 winners and win our place in the FA Cup semi-final at Wembley later on in April. Thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. Do become a subscriber by clicking the QR code, hit the like button, hit the hype button, and I'll see you all again pretty soon.